In the heart of Africa, a silent revolution is surging through towns, villages, and cities. 20 states, 20 million people, and one name at the center of it all, Maxwell. This is not just about electricity. This is about freedom, dignity, and a future that refuses to be outsourced. Welcome to Maxwell's Power Network, energizing 20 states, empowering 20 million. It all began with a whisper, a quiet genius working in the shadows of Zimbabwe. While the world was chasing solar panels and wind turbines, Maxwell Chikumbutso was building something different, something bigger. An off-grid, wireless, self-sustaining energy solution. Not for the elite, but for those who had nothing to plug into. And then the first switch flipped. A village that had lived in darkness for decades lit up without a single power line. What followed was a movement. From Zimbabwe to Zambia, Malawi to Mozambique, through dusty roads, river crossings, and deep forests, Maxwell's energy nodes began popping up quietly, efficiently, and independently. These weren't traditional grids. They didn't require billion-dollar infrastructure. No digging, no poles, no noise. Just pure innovation. Now, 20 states across southern and central Africa are plugged into Maxwell's network. In a remote town in Malawi, a young girl now studies at night under an LED lamp powered by Maxwell's box. In Zambia, clinics can refrigerate vaccines. In northern Mozambique, farmers are powering irrigation pumps for the first time in history. 20 million lives transformed, not by charity, not by foreign aid, but by African ingenuity. So how does it work? At the core is a proprietary system that combines wireless energy transfer, magnetic resonance, and frequency tuning, delivering sustainable electricity without the conventional grid. Maxwell calls it greener power. No fuel, no emissions, just silent, stable, scalable energy. And yes, the tech is open source for local engineers to adapt and improve. The vision doesn't stop at 20 states. Maxwell's roadmap is clear. 50 states, 100 million people, zero emissions. Talks are already underway with Pan-African partners. Even global NGOs are shifting focus. But for Maxwell, it's not about the spotlight. It's about lighting up lives. In a world chasing profits and patents, one African innovator dared to chase power for the people. Maxwell's network isn't just electrifying homes. It's energizing hope. It's empowering Africa. So, who is Maxwell Chikumbutso? A man often referred to as Africa's Nikola Tesla. But unlike Tesla, Maxwell isn't just imagining the future. He's building it. Quietly, relentlessly, without the backing of tech giants or billion-dollar investors. Raised in poverty, self-taught in engineering, and driven by a mission that borders on the spiritual. Maxwell doesn't measure success in profit margins. He measures it in lives lit up, in communities revived, and in generations inspired. And he's not alone anymore. Maxwell is training a new generation of engineers across Africa, building what he calls a Black Circuit, a collective of young minds pushing the boundaries of clean, sovereign energy innovation. But revolutions don't come easy. There have been attempts to silence his work. Pressure from foreign utility firms, regulatory blockades, and media blackouts. Why? Because power, quite literally, means control. And what Maxwell is offering is liberation. But when 20 million people rise together, no one can unplug the truth. International watchdogs are now investigating energy monopolies that ignored African potential for decades. And meanwhile, Maxwell's network continues to grow, unapologetically African. Let's go live to the outskirts of Lusaka, Zambia, where just last month, a cluster of solar hybrid Maxwell nodes brought round-the-clock electricity to Makumbwe Hospital, a rural clinic that once lost 3 newborns a week due to power outages. Now, 0 losses in 30 days. Doctors can operate through the night. Vaccines stay cold. And for the first time in its history, the maternity ward has hope, running on locally managed wireless power. Across the border in Tanzania, the Mbeya Agrotech Hub just signed an agreement to power 1,000 smart irrigation units for small-scale farmers, enabling year-round crop production, even through droughts. This is not a dream. This is data. This is reality, and this is Maxwell's impact unfolding in real time. World leaders are starting to notice. Delegates from the UN, World Bank, and energy tech startups in Silicon Valley are now visiting Maxwell-powered sites, not to offer help, but to learn. They want to know, how did Africa leapfrog traditional power grids? How did one man's invention succeed where billions in foreign aid failed? The answer is simple. He listened. He listened to the needs of his people, and he built solutions grounded in their realities, not Western blueprints. And as energy prices skyrocket across Europe and Asia, countries once called developed are now studying Africa for answers. With 20 states electrified and 20 million lives empowered, Africa isn't just consuming energy anymore, it's redefining it. Maxwell's network is no longer a proof of concept. It's a continent-wide statement, a declaration that energy doesn't. In places where just a few years ago, candles were the only light source. In Kenya, rural electrification has turned farmers into data-driven agripreneurs, connecting their tools, soil sensors, and harvest data to national buyers via the cloud. And in Nigeria, students now live stream science lessons from solar classrooms powered by wireless energy hubs. No diesel generators, no blackouts, just brilliance. And now, Africa is asking a bold question. If we can do this with limited funding, with homegrown engineers, and with purpose, what's stopping the rest of the world? Because while powerful nations debate climate policy in global conferences, Maxwell's model is proving that you don't need bureaucracy to build a future. You need courage, clarity, and community. It's a challenge not just energy companies, but to the entire development narrative. A signal that Africa is not waiting to be saved. Africa is saving itself, and in doing so, leading the world. What many don't know is that Maxwell's power revolution didn't grow with big headlines or flashy PR. It grew through an underground network of technicians, students, teachers, and community leaders. They carried the knowledge, installed the systems, trained the next, and moved on, like an energy version of the internet. Peer-to-peer, viral, and resilient. Each node added becomes a teacher. Each community becomes a builder. And every power box deployed becomes a symbol of freedom. They call themselves the gridless nation. Citizens of a power system not owned by corporations, but by the people it serves. And now, the whispers are spreading beyond the continent. In remote parts of Southeast Asia, interest is rising. From Pacific islands facing climate threats to Latin American villages off the grid, Maxwell's model is being translated, tested, and adopted. Global engineers are reverse engineering his systems, not to sell them back to Africa, but to replicate the vision in their own underserved regions. It's no longer just Maxwell's mission. It's becoming a blueprint for the global South. For the first time in modern history, Africa is exporting not raw materials, but revolutionary technology. As the whispers grow louder, so do the alliances. In Rwanda, Maxwell's team signed a strategic agreement with a network of youth-led cooperatives, training over 5,000 rural energy engineers in just 6 months. In Ghana, a partnership with an indigenous tech university begins building AI-assisted diagnostic centers, powered exclusively by Maxwell's off-grid tech. These are not aid deals. These are partnerships of equals, where knowledge flows in both directions, where Africa's energy miracle becomes a global classroom. Meanwhile, African investors, long overlooked, begin to see the untapped potential. From Lagos to Lusaka, a new wave of Afropreneurs are investing in power-based ventures, drone ports, 24-hour microfactories, telehealth stations, smart farming hubs, all energized by a network that doesn't rely on the old grid. And at the center of it all, a man who once worked out a shipping container in Harare, now mentoring a Pan-African tech league that thinks bigger, moves faster, and believes deeper. But energy is just the beginning. With thousands of communities now generating surplus power, Maxwell's team unveils the next phase, Gridcoin, a decentralized digital currency backed not by speculation, but by energy output. Every kilowatt hour fed back into the network earns the contributor tokens, redeemable for education, healthcare, farming equipment, or even community voting power. For the first time, energy becomes a local economy. Communities are not just consuming power, they're profiting from it. Young programmers in Senegal are already building energy wallets. Women-led cooperatives in Ethiopia are trading grid coin for micro-insurance coverage. And in South Africa, an experimental smart village is being piloted, fully run on wireless energy, monitored by blockchain, and governed through a participatory AI assistant. Maxwell's revolution is becoming multidimensional, a fusion of light, data, sovereignty, and economics. Then comes the unexpected twist. The cities, what started in forgotten villages, is now creeping into the urban core. Unreliable grids, endless blackouts, and rising tariffs are pushing African cities to rethink energy from scratch. In Nairobi's Kibra district, Africa's largest informal settlement, Maxwell nodes now light up 2,000 homes, street by street, block by block. In Lagos, a pilot project powers a full commuter rail line for 6 hours a day, wireless, emission-free, uninterrupted. City planners, once skeptical, are now drawing up maps that no longer include massive power plants or decades-long grid rollouts. They're thinking in hexagons, not wires, in nodes, not central stations, in people, not profits. The megacities of tomorrow may not look like Dubai or Tokyo. They may look like Maxwell-powered ecosystems, organic, adaptive, and sovereign. By now, the term energy continent is trending across global tech forums. Africa, once seen as the world's most energy-poor region, is becoming a case study in leapfrogging infrastructure. And foreign governments are starting to follow. Delegations from Brazil, Nepal, the Philippines, and Haiti arrived to study the Maxwell method. A summit is planned, not in Geneva or New York, but in Lusaka, where leaders will gather around the idea that energy must be owned by those who use it. The energy continent isn't a dream anymore. It's a new geopolitical identity. Would you like me to continue into the global energy shift, where Maxwell's innovations begin influencing climate negotiations, reshaping economic models, and attracting unexpected allies from across the world? Let's keep building this world-changing journey. Old media frames as untested, risky, or too decentralized. Yet, the truth refuses to dim, because in every electrified village, every powered school, and every reborn hospital, millions are living proof that it works. And unlike fragile centralized grids, Maxwell's network cannot be taken down. It lives in backups, in code, in human memory. It's a revolution with no headquarters, just people and purpose. In northern Namibia, a teacher stands in a solar-lit classroom, holding a tablet powered by a Maxwell node. Her students, once limited by darkness, are now connected to a virtual global library, building solar-powered robots with scrap parts. They call themselves the Children of Light, and they are not alone. In Burundi, young girls are building microgrids. In Congo, refugee camps are now broadcasting their own news channels, powered by Maxwell energy. In Madagascar, young coders are developing an app to monitor weather patterns and alert fishing villages of storms, saving lives before disaster hits. These children don't just consume knowledge, they create it. They aren't being rescued, they're leading. And everywhere Maxwell's system lands, it leaves behind not dependence, but dignity. Would you like the story to evolve next into a climactic global turning point? Perhaps the launch of the first fully Maxwell-powered smart city? Or the moment Maxwell is nominated for a Peace Prize, shaking geopolitical balance? Let's continue building this living revolution together. Years pass. What began as a silent rebellion of circuits and solar panels becomes a global transformation. The world now speaks of the Maxwell model, taught in universities, cited in climate agreements adopted by nations. In Kigali, the world's first zero-grid capital launches, entirely powered by decentralized nodes. No fossil fuels, no blackouts, no energy bills. Just wireless power, clean skies, and thriving communities. In Sierra Leone, a girl named Amara, once studying under candlelight, graduates as the youngest ever chief energy officer of her district. Her thesis? Decentralized energy as decolonization. Maxwell, now older and slower, watches quietly from a modest home in Harare. He refuses interviews. He doesn't seek fortune. When asked how he changed the world, he simply says, "I didn't. The people did. I just reminded them they could." In the end, it wasn't just about electricity. It was about illumination, not just of homes, but of minds, not just of cities, but of identities. Maxwell's power network didn't just energize 20 states. It awakened an entire continent and sparked a revolution that lit up the world. From the shadows of neglect came the brightest light, and that light will never die. The future is already here. Now it's your turn to power it.